عن أبي ذر قال دخلت على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فذكر الحديث بطوله إلى أن قال قلت يا رسول الله أوصني قال أوصيك بتقوى الله فإنه أزين لأمرك كله قلت زدني قال عليك بتلاوة القرآن وذكر الله عز وجل فإنه ذكر لك في السماء ونور لك في الأرض قلت زدني قال عليك بطول الصمت فإنه مطردة للشيطان وعون لك على أمر دينك قلت زدني قال إياك وكثرة الضحك فإنه يميت القلب ويذهب بنور الوجه قلت زدني قال قل الحق وإن كان مرا قلت زدني قال لا تخف في الله لومة لائم قلت زدني قال ليحجزك عن الناس ما تعلم من نفسك رواه البيهقي في شعب الإيمان. First we'll do the translation. Actually we'll do it since this is the chapter of the beautiful advices of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Jawami'ul Kalim. Few words, a lot of meaning. So inshallah we'll go over these advices of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam one by one. Hazrat Abu Dharr Ghifari radiyallahu anh से रिवायत है कि रसूल अकरम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की खिदमत में एक दिन हाजिर हुए. Abu Dharr Ghifari radiyallahu anh has narrated that he went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day. Then he narrated a long hadith, and then in that same conversation Abu Dharr radiyallahu anh has said that I asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, awsini, give me some advice, mujhe wasiyat farmaiye. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, more or less meaning, मैं तुमको वसीयत करता हूँ अल्लाह के तक़वे की, क्योंकि ये तक़वा बहुत ज़्यादा आरास्ता कर देने वाला और संवार देने वाला है तुम्हारे सारे कामों को. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, more or less meaning, that I advise you of taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this taqwa is going to beautify all your affairs, all your umur, li amrika kulli, all your affairs. We have went over what is the meaning of taqwa. The taqwa is to be so respectful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as to fear Him and as to not go near the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the avenues of disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the places and the opportunities of disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, out of that respect and fear, follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the things that please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as told by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that this is something that will beautify all your affairs. Beauty, azyan, zinat is basically that which is beautiful, which is praiseworthy in its apparent self and its inner self. Of course, taqwa, as we've said, is a condition of the heart, is a condition of that pertains to our inner self. So taqwa makes all our actions, and this does not only relate to our ibadat or our worships, but everything that we do that we may not consider worship, but if we do it with fear and respect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will beautify it. We will not spend a lot of time over here because in the past 2 or 3 weeks we've talked a lot about taqwa. Inshallah, there's other nasaih or other advices of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we want to focus on today. हज़रत कहते हैं कि मैंने अर्ज़ किया रसूल अकरम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम और वसीयत फरमाइए. आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम इरशाद फरमाया, तुम कुरान मजीद की तिलावत और अल्लाह के ज़िक्र को लाजिम पकड़ लो, क्योंकि ये तिलावत और ज़िक्र ज़रिया होगा आसमान में तुम्हारे ज़िक्र का और इस ज़मीन में नूर होगा तुम्हारे लिए. Hazrat Abu Dharr radiyallahu anhu says that I asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I requested the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that give me some more advice. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you should hold tight and firmly the recitation of the Quran and the remembrance of Allah, the Zikr of Allah. Because this tilawat, this recitation and this remembrance or Zikr will become a means of your remembrance in the skies and nur for you in this world. So this needs explanation. Of course, we all know what is the recitation of Quran. We also know what is remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this requires some explanation. A lot of times our mashayikh have said that we consider that only saying the name or doing the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our tongues alone, we think that is zikr, we think that is remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, that know it well, bear it in mind that the peace of hearts lies in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We think that only remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our tongues or chanting the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our tongues is called zikr, and it will grant us peace of heart. Hazrat Mufassirin have explained this ayah, Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, and wherever zikr is mentioned as Ala fi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, in the remembrance, which means that you submerge your whole body in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and particularly so your heart. So the peace that is promised, and here in this hadith the Prophet ﷺ has promised nur and remembrance in the skies. All of that is promised when the heart is attentive towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and more preferably so, all the body organs are attentive of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not only attentive at a certain point, but excessively attentive of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that means that our eyes are attentive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and do not sin. Similarly, our ears are attentive and mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The zikr of ears is to not sin by listening. Similarly, our hands, our feet, all our body organs, and most importantly so, our heart and our mind is attentive of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and does not sin or disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and excessively so, which means that it frequently does not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It frequently remains, for the most of its time, remains in the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the meaning of excessive zikr and zikr of the whole body. And this is the zikr that is called mu'tabar. This is the zikr that is called credible, trustworthy, valuable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our tongues alone is a high honor, but the true zikr that is talked about in the Quran, and promises have been made that fazkuruni azkurkum, remember me, I remember you. This promise, and of course in this hadith the Prophet ﷺ has said that zikr will become a means for you to be remembered in the skies and nur for you in the earth. Now there's a few things written here in explanation. Fazkuruni azkurkum, what is our zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That is explained. And in the explanation of this ayah in tafsir it is written, فَاذْكُرُونِي بِإِطَاعَةٍ بِالْإِطَاعَةِ, remember me with obedience. بِالْإِطَاعَةِ, itaat, farmabardari, upholding my order. أَذْكُرُكُمْ بِالنِّعْمَةِ, I will remember you with my ni'mah, with my blessing. بِالْعِنَايَةِ, I will remember you with my inayat, with my excessive giving to you. So this is our zikr, is to not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah's zikr is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers us with His inayah, with His ata, with His giving, excessive giving. So this is the explanation of the zikr that happens in the skies. If we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers us in the skies with His inayah. Similarly, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned that if a person remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers him alone. When somebody remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a gathering, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers them in a better gathering. And of course, the meaning is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers them with inayah, with His blessing, with His extreme giving, in the company of the angels and the spirits of the prophets, those that inhabit and that are around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the companies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a much better company than when we could ever find to have our zikr done in. What does it mean when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet says that it becomes nur for you on earth? In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, more or less meaning is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes nur for them. These people who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes nur for them, with which they travel the earth, with which yamshi bihi fin nas, they traverse the earth with that nur between people. So this nur is what makes one find out and recognize what is right as right and recognize what is wrong as wrong. This is the nur on earth. And with excessive zikr, which is in essence staying away from disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person's capacity to recognize what is right and recognize what is wrong becomes enhanced, becomes polished, and to accept and follow the right and to stay away from wrong becomes easier for them. Needless to say, this nur, without this nur, it is very hard for us to stay on the right path, stay on the path of obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, all mashayikh, I haven't heard of any shaykh who, if you go and become their disciple or give back to them, I have never heard of any shaykh who at one point or the other, prescribes some zikr, some remembrance, some daily routine of zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course, tilawat of Quran, recitation of Quran. One other thing that has been written in the explanation of this hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ has made a dua, and from that dua we learn that zikr is the opener of the hearts. The locks that we have placed on our heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens those locks by virtue of zikr. Allahumma aftah aqfala qulubina bi-dhikrik wa alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma aftah aqfala qulubina bi-dhikrik. The dua of Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which is munajat maqbool, that, O Allah, open the aqfal, the locks of our hearts with your remembrance. So with remembrance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up the locks that we have ourselves placed on our hearts. Another great thing about zikr is that the property of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and this is a fine thing to understand, the property of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere. Huwa ma'akum ayna ma kuntum. And in a hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, Ana jalisu man dhakarani. I am sitting with the person, I am with the person who is remembering me, with the one who is remembering me. Hazrat Mashayikh have explained this, that the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that it is not separate from the person of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is particularly about Ism Zat, the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we say Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is right with us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there with us, because the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not separate from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. This is a special property of Ism Zat. And that is why it is called Ism Zat, the name of the person of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But anyway, without going into too much details to confuse ourselves about it, there's various virtues of zikr, and it is very important in opening up our hearts and minds towards the knowledge and practice of deen. And without zikr, without remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes very hard. It actually becomes impossible. हज़रत रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु कहते हैं, मैंने फिर अर्ज़ किया, हज़रत मुझे कुछ और नसीहत फरमाइए। आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने इरशाद फरमाया, ज़्यादा खामोश रहने और कम बोलने की आदत डालो, क्योंकि ये आदत शैतान को दफ़ा करने वाली और दीन के मामले में तुमको मदद देने वाली है. This is a weird thing. We think that by speaking excessively, we will help our deen. We will command ourselves of goodness, we command others of goodness, which is a fine thing. But the Prophet ﷺ is saying that stay quiet, speak less. This will push away the shaitan from you, and this will support you in deen. the meaning of this is that, as written in this explanation here, is that the hadith that has been quoted in explanation is the Prophet ﷺ has told us that on the day of judgment, the most amount of people that will be thrown into hellfire will be because of the atrocities of their tongue. Because of the atrocities of their tongue. Because of what they did wrong, because of the sins of their tongue. Backbiting, complaining about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all those sorts of things. So, in another hadith, Rasulullah has said that whoever believes in Allah and on the day of judgment, it is best for them to stay quiet. It is best for them to either say something good or to stay quiet. So when and only when we say something good, and remember, to say something good is not, it has a vast meaning. Something we may be saying something that is apparently good, but if our niyat, if our intention with that is to portray ourselves as better beings, as someone higher up, then that good thing and saying that good thing will become a source of our destruction. So, to say a good thing with a good intention, that is preferable, and that is even better than staying quiet. But for the most people, staying quiet is the best scheme, is the best policy. Stay quiet. It will keep you away from sins, protected from sins, and it will help you in your affairs of deen. The Prophet ﷺ is saying. अबू ज़र रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु कहते हैं, मैंने अर्ज़ किया मुझे और नसीहत फरमाइए। आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया, ज़्यादा हंसना छोड़ दो, क्योंकि ये आदत दिल को मुर्दा कर देती है और आदमी के चेहरे का नूर इसकी वजह से जाता रहता है। The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Abu Zar radiallahu anhu said that I asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to advise me even more. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, give up excessive laughter, because this makes your heart dead, turns your heart dead, and takes away the brightness or noor of the face of a man. From this we should not think that being happy is prohibited in Islam or smiling is prohibited in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ is known as the man who would smile the most. But this is talking about that laughter, that excessive laughter that has inherently within it hidden the capacity to make you negligent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That kind of laughter, that kind of continued excessive laughter that makes you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that makes you negligent of the akhirah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So excessive laughter, give up excessive laughter, because that turns the heart dead and the noor or the brightness or the light of the face of a man is taken away because of this. मैंने अर्ज़ किया, या रसूलुल्लाह मुझे और नसीहत फरमाइए। आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने इंशाअल्लाह we'll do these three together. आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने इरशाद फरमाया, हमेशा हक़ और सच्ची बात कहो, अगरचे लोगों के लिए नाखुशगवार और कड़वी हो। मैंने अर्ज़ किया, मुझे और नसीहत फरमाइए। आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया, अल्लाह के बारे में किसी मलामत करने वाले की मलामत की परवाह न करो। मैंने अर्ज़ किया, या रसूलुल्लाह मुझे और नसीहत फरमाइए। आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने इरशाद फरमाया, तुम जो कुछ अपने नफ्स और अपनी ज़ात के बारे में जानते हो, चाहिए कि वो बाज रखे तुम्हें दूसरों के ऐबों के पीछे पड़ने से। The last three will do together. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the last three advices the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon repeatedly being asked by Sayyidina Abu Dharr al-Ghifari radiyallahu anhu. Number one, say the right thing, say the truth, although it may be unpleasant for people. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ is not saying say the right thing in a manner that becomes unpleasant for people. Prophet ﷺ is saying say the right thing, even it may be, and you got the point, you got the difference? Do not say the right thing in a manner that it becomes unpleasant for the people. The problem with the people who have even little knowledge of deen is that they are so confident about their knowledge of deen and their status in deen that they will say the right thing without hikmah, without wisdom. And they will start saying it to everybody, and they will make it a point to say it in a manner that is unpleasant to people. The Prophet ﷺ is not advising of that. Prophet ﷺ is saying, say the right thing, say haqq, speak the truth, even if it may be by its nature, if it may be, it may fall upon people as something unpleasant. So the hearts that have not been trained, the hearts and the people who are used to their lives of disobedience, of course, haqq, the right thing, will fall upon them as being unpleasant. That is something that we cannot help. But at our end, we have to make it an effort. I think I've narrated this before. Mufti Taqi Usmani Sahab has written in his books that the first ever book that he was going to write, he had recently graduated, and he wrote a book about a fitna that was prevalent in those days, and he wrote it based on the Quran and Hadith. Mufti Taqi Usmani Sahab, everyone knows about him. Based on the Quran and Hadith, based on evidences from the Quran and Hadith, and very strong evidences. And he presented those evidences in a manner that would ridicule and that would point out the deficiencies, which is a good thing, but in a sarcastic manner, the deficiencies of thinking of that firqa, of that fitna. Wrote that book and presented to his father for review, Mufti Azam, Mufti Shafi Sahib. So Hazrat has said that my father read that book, and then after reading it whole, he said that, what is the purpose of writing this book? If you are intending to portray your excessive knowledge to the world or your soundness of knowledge to the world, this book is going to serve this purpose. But if your real intent is to bring those people to the right path, to guide those people, this book is not going to serve that purpose in the least bit. And then he said, when Hazrat realized this, he said, tear this book apart, and write it again. And then Hazrat was made to write that book again, and then finally his script was approved by Hazrat Mufti Sahib. So the point to remember is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a station, that station where we are in a state that we can advise people, or people look up to us for advice, then if we are giving them good advice, or if we are telling them the true thing, the thing of haqq, we should make it a point that we give nasihat to them, we give wasiyat to them with a pain in our heart, with considering their best interest at our heart, and try to make it as pleasant for them as possible and as acceptable to them as possible. Do not massacre the truth with the idea of making it acceptable to people, but as acceptable as possible, remaining within the bounds of Sharia. We should try to do that. If we have to change our appearance, and this is something very important to learn as well, the people, if our appearance is such that people will be turned away just by looking at us, and if we are at a station where we have to advise people of good things, we have to change our appearance within the limits of Sharia. It becomes a requisite for us, if we are at that station, that we change our appearance, our mannerisms, our way of speaking, our way of sitting, our way of walking. If we have been given that station by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to become more acceptable within the limits of Sharia. We have to become attractive to people. And the way we say things, the way we tell them things, that way has to be attractive. Although that thing that we are saying may be in and of itself unpleasant or hard upon people. And then when we have that, then when somebody is, what translation is this? Malamat. Somebody is
criticized.
Malamat is to belittle, well, not belittle. If somebody, we'll use all of them. Somebody criticizes you, somebody tells you off, somebody belittles you because of following the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a very, very, very simple, for the lack of a better example, don't be offended by it, growing a beard. All of us know it is an order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a sunnah of all the prophets It is the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For the lack of a better example, I'm just using this. When we have decided, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that kind of strength, when we have decided that we have to follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, actually it's not only a sunnah, it's actually a wajib, something that is right after first. When we have decided that we have to do it, we have to grow it fully. Then when you have decided for yourself and you are steadfast on it, do not care about the people who are going to tell you off of this, who are going to say, who are going to criticize this, who are going to make fun of you. Allah Ta'ala के मामले में किसी मलामत करने वाले की मलामत की परवाह न करो. And then Hazrat Abu Dharr Ghafari radiallahu anhu said, advise me more. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said, whatever you know about your own self and about your nafs, that should prohibit you from going after the shortcomings of others. That should prohibit you from going after the faults of others. Why did I do these together? Because these three together should be kept in mind. When you are saying the right thing, you should not be looking after, the intention should not be going after the shortcomings of other people's. Because you never know. Hazrat Thanvi Rahimahullah used to say, I consider even kuffar better than me fil mal. In the future, they may make tawbah, they may repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they may become closer and more dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than where I am right now. And I consider every Muslim better fil hal. I consider every Muslim better than me fil hal, because I don't know about, if I remember correct.
Present.
So I consider every Muslim better than me because I don't know what is their true station in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I may think that I am a very pious person, and they on the apparent, on the outside, they may look like they do not follow the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we don't know what is their station in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other thing that I want to mention finally is that without giving this up, that we consider ourselves really high in ourselves, we consider ourselves high, and na'uzubillah consider others lowly. Without giving up this habit, we actually don't begin to get the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't begin to realize the station of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't even get close to it, because in ourselves we are the highest. We have left no place for the recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enter into our hearts.